Hey guys, Vincent here. I put this video together because I, like many of you, like to make your own retro arcade games. And I could never find a cheap spinner knob on the internet. Every time I looked, they always went anywhere between 90 to even up to $200. So in order to, make things a little cheaper, I researched a little and came up with this in order to make my own rotary encoder spinner knob for larger games as well as smaller. I've gotten into making these smaller, tabletop games, and the one behind me is a Space Ace slash Dragon's Lair game. They don't use the spinner knob, but if I wanted to make the Tempest or Star Trek, I would need something smaller. So I came up with this. I'm not reinventing the wheel here or anything like that. This is actually pretty simple. And as the video goes on with the tutorial, I'll show you what you need in order to wire and to pin out for these different things. But just real quick to show you, the main component for this is going to be this little baby here, this board here. This is made by a company called Ultimarc, and they do make spinner knobs. That's kind of one of the things they do. This here is the USB encoder for that spinner knob. So I went ahead and purchased this. It was about $9, $5 shipping, about 14 bucks altogether. And for my smaller video games, I went ahead and bought this. It's basically just a small encoder. And this runs about $1.50. So at that point, you're looking at maybe spending, $16, $17 for this, and it works just as well as a regular, larger size, spinner knob. The only differences with these, and I'm sure you can find them without this, is that these cheaper ones here do have what's called a detent, which basically means that as you spin it, you'll feel like a little bit of a teeth grind. It's not a big deal. It works just the same as the regular spinners. Okay. However, if you're looking for something larger, like the regular size spinner knobs, you can buy something like this. This was about $13. It is a rotary encoder, just the same, and it's pretty much what a spinner knob is. This one here, the shaft is free spinning, so there is no detent to it. It spins just like a regular spinner knob. Okay, so again, $13. I think this was free shipping on this one. So you got 13, maybe $15 a piece for each thing. So you're talking about $30 opposed to having to buy something that's $90. Okay, so I'll show you in the do-it-yourself here that it's not that hard to put this together, and it works with most games. There are going to be some things you have to tweak a little bit depending on what version of MAME and which ones you use, but for the most part, it works well. So I hope you enjoy this video. Okay, so let's begin. Hopefully this is going to be the easiest way to show you guys how to put this thing together. We'll start with the actual rotary encoder. Okay, so the one that I ended up using for my smaller arcade is this one right here. It was about $1.50, and it's not expensive at all. I've listed over here the pin outputs, and I'll go ahead and increase this real quick so you guys can see it larger. Okay, move it back here. So with this rotary encoder, and most of them are pretty universal about how they are pinned out, you have an output A pulse, which is your CKL. You have an output B pulse, which is your DT. So basically you have your two directions. Okay. Then you have a SW pin, which is your switch output. A lot of these encoders, you can depress the actual knob itself, and it's a switch. So that can be hooked up almost like a right mouse button would be. Then you have, of course, a power plus, and it runs off 3.3 volts or 5 volts. You probably want to stick with the 5 volts. And then, of course, you have ground. Okay, so I'm going to reduce this for now so that we can go on to the next step, but I'll put these back up here so that you can see how they fit together. So then we're going to move on to the main piece of this puzzle, which is the Ultimarc Trak USB adapter. This is a little printed out diagram of the pinout for the USB interface, and the actual board looks like this. And it's very, compact and small. And I will go ahead and increase this so you guys can see it, how large it is. Obviously, these are just the wiring for the pins, but it's fairly small. So you can keep an eye on this because this is going to be very similar to that diagram there. So let me reduce this and put this over here. Let me just increase this a little bit. There we go. So you can see here that the diagram I have here matches up with the pinout on this side, okay? And it's pretty straightforward. This is set up kind of like a mouse. You have a ground, which is your top pin here, and then you actually have two places that you can use for power. Pins 8 and 9 both are for 5 volts, and you can use either one of them. It doesn't really matter. And just like a mouse, you have an x-axis and a y-axis. So your x-axis is going to be up and down, and your y-axis is left and right. So you have pins 5 and 7 for x, and 4 and 6 for y. And with any mouse, you have a right mouse click button, which is going to be your third pin, or a left one, which is going to be number 10. Okay, so with doing the spinner, you really don't need any of these buttons for clicking. Really, the only ones that we're going to be concentrating on is obviously a power supply, ground, and then you can use X, but I would suggest using the Y axis, which is the left and the right, because those are the two directions you're going to want to go for your spinner. Okay, so you can see how this, like I said, matches up on this side. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so now for the actual pins, let me put this here, and then I'll get this and put this one over here so that you can kind of see. Okay, so with this pinout, you're going to use for your right and left spinner, you're going to use, as I said, the y-axis, and you'll do your ground, which is right here. Obviously your black, it's your ground, and then you're going to use your 5 volt, which, like I said, you can use 8 or 9. In this one, let's see, I actually don't remember which one here because I don't have them. Let me take a look here. It doesn't matter. So I think I used 8 because I try to keep everything on one side. So the Y1 is going to go to your DT. So that's pretty straightforward. And then your Y2, which is going to be your 4 pin, is going to go to your CLK, number 4. Okay? Right there. So again, you can see it's set up that way. All right? So it's pretty straightforward, and once you have this hooked up like I have it here, you should be able to run these with no problem. Now, as I said, you can set it up with the x-axis. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can, and it's just going to move up and down. And you can also set up the push button, which again, I'm not sure why you would want to do that because you really just need the left and right motion. Okay, so as an example, there we go. This is what I was looking for. So I have set this up, and you can see here, you have the actual board here with the setup, and then this is the rotary coder you saw pictured in there. Now that has a knob on it. They come with knobs. I had taken it off for the picture, but you can put any kind of spinner you want on there. This is just what came with it. Now I'm going to move this arrow up to the black here so you can see, and just like anything else, you have the left and right spin, and you can plug this into your computer to test it. So if you have everything pinned out right and you twist, you should get left, right, or actually it'd be your right and my left, but you can see that it moves.
So as long as you're getting that, you know that you are successful with the pinout. Okay, so let me get rid of this, and that's pretty much it. You can do this on the larger um, rotary encoder that I had shown earlier in that other part of the video, and it's kind of the same way. Most of those don't have the uh, center switch, so you only have the two connections here plus the power and ground. Um, so if you have any questions about this, please just send me a comment or question, and I will try to walk you through it or answer it. I find that on most of the games like uh, Tempest, ARKANOID, Star Trek, this works pretty good. I don't think you'll have to do a whole lot of tweaking with the settings. Sometimes you do as far as the speed for these things when they turn, and there is a little part on that. If you know anything about setting up MAME, you know how to adjust those things. But if not, let me know and I can uh, walk you through it. But I found that this system works best with like MAME for All, MAME 2010, and the games that are all on those systems. I did find on older emulators like Advanced MAME and others like that sometimes the emulator doesn't recognize the encoder. So you're better to use the more modern, or I should say the newer encoders. I'm sorry, newer emulators than the older ones. All right. So hopefully this video helped you guys, and you know, I hope that you guys can get as much use of this as I did, and not have to spend as much on an actual spinner knob. All right.